Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the PompeyCast. Today I'm joined by none other than Andy Cullen, the CEO of Portsmouth Football Club, and I'm delighted to announce he's joining me. First of all, Andy, how are you doing today?
Great, thanks Blake, and delighted to be able to speak to you and talk about what we're up to, what our plans are going forward, and looking back at one or two things that have happened in the past.
Yes, definitely. Now, first of all, I'm going to ask you a question that's been on quite a lot of people's minds overall, and I genuinely would just like to know what attracted you to our football club with Portsmouth.
Well, Portsmouth is a very, very special football club. Over many years I've been following football since the 1970s, as a fan, going to games, and it's always had some magic about it. And I obviously was given the opportunity by Mark Catlin. Mark came and spoke to me when he said he was going to look at a different pathway for himself. I was quite flattered and surprised to be asked by Mark whether I would consider the position here. It was something you think long and hard about because it involves relocation and moving from a football club where I was really, really settled and had some great relationships with supporters, great relationships with the owner. But I think you then start to do a little bit more of your homework because you know all about the club. You know from coming to Fratton Park, the atmosphere, the passion, the special nature of what makes the football club tick. I was also very, very aware as well about how the fans had rescued the football club, how they stood by their football club in times of difficulty to enable it to move on to next stage, to enable it to survive. So all those things, really resonated, with me very, very strongly. And one of the key things as well was ownership. I mean, you have to, as a chief exec, you have to have a good working relationship with the owners of the football club. You need to understand their values. And the minute I spoke to Michael Eisner and his family, I knew this was the right time. It was the right place to come to in the next stage of my career, and to help everybody at Portsmouth Football Club in whatever role they do to achieve and to help them provide the conditions for success.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can start to see some of that come into fruition now with the groundworks, with the works on the squad. But before we talk about Portsmouth and the club and the squad we got at the minute, everything like that, I think a lot of people don't really know, I mean I personally don't, what your job role kind of entails, and I think it'd be good for the fans to understand how hard you do actually work.
Well, I think you're very privileged to be a chief executive of a football club. There are so many different aspects to it. Fundamentally, you are the bridge between the executive team and the board of a football club. The board will set the strategy, and the chief executive's role in any business, any company, is to start to make sure that strategy is delivered. You're obviously coming, as a chief executive, coming back with your recommendations to the board as well. So it's a pivotal role at board meetings in terms of advising the board, hopefully to make the decisions, and sometimes you need to tweak strategy, whether it's business strategy, whether it's recruitment strategy, whatever aspect of the game that you're involved in, you have to show that degree of leadership as well. So I'm blessed to have a really, really good executive team. We've made some changes over the last 12 months. We're constantly looking to improve. We've got a good crew of young, dynamic people in the business, balanced by some good, experienced people within the football club. So it's a job to gel it all together. So you're looking at operationally, you're looking at strategy. We've had some operational challenges in the last 12 months. There's no hiding from that. One of the biggest projects was helping to deliver the club out of COVID, getting through a very difficult labour market at the moment, in terms of, particularly on match days, in terms of ensuring that we have the correct amount of stewarding staff, catering staff, hospitality staff. That's not been easy. That was true of all businesses. I think we had some particular circumstances for ourselves as well. Relocating 2,000 season ticket holders from their seats in the middle of the season was a challenge that I've never been involved with before. But I think I've always been a believer that if you involve supporters in decisions that affect them most, you can overcome those challenges and get better results. So the working parties we set up, for example, were hugely instrumental and successful in helping us make better decisions and understanding some of the issues and problems that people might face and overcoming them. we obviously then had the same problems with the South Stand, where although that wasn't relocating people mid-season, there would be slight shifts of people to the left or the right of where they originally sit. I was very conscious. I followed football for so many years before I got involved in it, that one of the best things about coming to football matches is not just to be with your family but with your friends as well, people you don't see week to week, but long established friendships are made via football, and we didn't want to disrupt that in any way at all. So to make sure that we were in a really good place to make that happen was important. There are a number of things as well that during the course of the season we've looked at to make the football club better. We've brought new partners in to assist us with the catering, the hospitality operations here. Also at Roco, because we inherited the training ground, we've had to do some major investment works to keep that gym operational and open and to help us build it for the future. So we've got a new partner in there helping us, a new management company to come in to help us take that gym forward. We still own it, we're still responsible for it, but we've got somebody who really knows their stuff to make it happen. So it's been a real review of the whole operational aspect, and I've been very, very fortunate, very privileged and lucky to be backed by the board and some of the things that I've wanted to do, and a great team who have bought into what we want to do going forward. We've got a new business plan going forward. We've re-established what the values of our football club are. The staff have been very involved in putting those together. Each department has clear objectives aligned to the 5 things that we want to achieve as a football club, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. And again, those have been shaped by the staff, and that's incredibly important to me. So it's not seen as I know what the broad strategy is, but the implementation of it, I think we've got the staff with us, and that gives us a huge chance of being successful.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of that will be great to hear from the fans' perspective, because a lot of them from the outside, as much as it isn't nice, they're from the outside looking in. They won't understand the day-to-day workings. All they see is the front, and they just see people being moved, and it isn't nice to be moved a couple of rows along or a couple of rows forward. But at the end of the day, I think you've handled that perfectly. Now the South Stand's looking better than ever. The North Stand looks a lot better as well. People are back in their seats, and I think people are happy in their seats as well with the current results anyway. The next question from me is, what do you hope overall to create in your time at Portsmouth and develop while you're here?
We just want to take the club forward in every aspect. Most importantly, to have played a part in creating conditions for success on the pitch. Everybody wants to see the club promoted into the Championship. We all want to be there. We've all got a drive and determination to do our best to help get there. It's something you can control so many aspects in business life. On pitch performances are difficult, so you have to make sure that you've given everybody the best chance of achieving success. Whether you're the groundsman, whether you're a coach, whether you work in the academy, whether you work in commercial or finance, we're all there to make sure that we can deliver those conditions. So that's really the one thing that I want to help achieve. Every aspect of the football club, you can look back at it, when you leave a football club and you said, yeah, we made a difference there. We achieved a number of objectives. The football club's in a better place than when you found it. And I know Mark Catlin will look at that as well in terms of where he took the club from to where he handed it over to me, and it's my responsibility to keep delivering that and take it forward. So yeah, that's the plan. I think we're in a look back on the 12 months. We have improved over the 12-month period. It was an unusual time to take over from Mark, given coming out of COVID. So it's been a challenge, but we've got a plan. And if you've got a plan, you know where you're heading, you know where you're going. Everyone can deliver against it. So it's making sure as well we've got the right processes in place at this football club to achieve success as well. That it's not just a little bit of hit and miss and being beholden to circumstances. So planning processes really important to me.
Yeah, I can see that, and you mentioned there where you leave a club. If you look at your work at MK Dons, as much as many Pompey fans may not look at it, the work you did there from where they started with you, 12 years you were there for, 12 and a half to be specific, and you can see how that club developed over time to where you left them as a League One playoff club. They weren't sat in the middle of League One. In previous years they've been in League Two, and realistically the ground there is lovely. I think Pompey fans should kind of maybe look at MK Dons and look at where you've left them, as to hopefully where we go a bit further, maybe to the Championship. But they've been there, beating Manchester United 4-0. I hope you probably enjoyed that one, didn't you?
Still enjoyed it.
Right, on to the next question now, and I'm going to ask you. So we've asked about overall development of the club. This one is, what are your targets, maybe hopes for on the pitch this season?
On the pitch, I think we want to finish in a much higher position than we did last year. I think we've now had Danny and myself the 3 windows that we thought were going to be really necessary to implement the style, the philosophy, bring the right players in that fitted that. So we're in a good place. We look back at the recruitment over the summer. That's given us a good platform to compete to succeed in. It's a very, very competitive league. There's going to be a lot of teams. We can already see that in the way that the season is shaping up. Maybe 1 or 2 surprises up there in terms of early challenges as well. There always is. You look at the great start that teams like Cambridge have made.
Definitely, yeah.
So it's a tough league. It's going to be one which will be competitive, but we think we're well equipped. We think we've got a good balance. We've worked particularly hard in different positions over the course of the summer. The forward line, was a key area for focus. We adopted a really patient approach to that, to actually make sure that we brought in 3 forwards who would complement each other. It would have been very easy to be lazy and bow to the pressures, the external pressures that were on us, and maybe bring somebody in a little bit earlier who was available, or players that were available, but that would have compromised some of the things that we wanted to do down the line. So we held a nerve. We took a gamble, but we were able to land the people that we really wanted at this football club. When we were looking back in terms of long-term planning, which began back after the last window, and again we'll start to look towards the next 12 months as well. The next couple of windows will be important for the football club. You're constantly looking to improve. You never stop in terms of recruitment. So. Going forward, we need to see the club challenging, in and around the playoffs all season. And the start we've made has given us a very, very good platform to do that.
Definitely has, and I think a lot of fans will join me in saying that this window has been a very good one. Look at the additions of Marlon Pack coming back home as a player who realistically could still turn out for a Championship side. You've also got players like, you saw contract extensions of Michael Jacobs, that's helped us. Shame to see Louis Thompson out injured. He was another one that came in. Dane Scarlett on loan was a great example of holding out and waiting until he became available on loan. I think Piggott we waited a bit for as well. Colby Bishop as well, we waited until he became probably more available, because I think last summer he was available at 2 million. I think they turned down for him.
Yep.
So I think it was perfect to wait and get him for a better value nowadays. But obviously transfer windows, it's not necessarily, as far as I'm concerned, the owners buying a player and telling the manager to use him. So what is it like working with Danny, not just in the window but also outside of the window?
We work very, very closely together. I think we've both got each other on speed dial. So during the window, we're regularly speaking, regularly talking, and it's my role to try and do as best I possibly can to support Danny, as it would be for any manager in the business. We have a very, very close working relationship. There is such a hard work ethic between Danny, Nicky, and indeed all the coaching staff. They work tirelessly for this football club. They try to make decisions which are good for the long term development of the football club. And they are people that really care about Portsmouth. They get it. I think I'm very lucky that all the coaching staff up at the training ground value the importance of the connection between the football club, the supporters, and that also helps breed conditions for success as well. So yes. That's good. But I mean, the diligence, the preparation, the planning that went into summer recruitment, it was really, really good. And I've had some experience of this, of working alongside a number of managers. I've been lucky to work with some really good managers who equally are diligent. So Danny and Nicky are up amongst the best in terms of their planning, preparation, but also the compelling work that they've done to persuade players to come to Portsmouth. I mean, it's not just a question of going out and laying a deal on the table and hoping a player will accept it. You have to persuade them that Portsmouth is the right place for them to come at this stage of their careers. That it's going to provide a platform for them to develop and go on and be successful. And to do that, they have to buy into the project. And you need people to go out and sell the football club to them as well. And that's where Danny, Nicky, Phil Boardman have worked so hard to make sure that we can bring these players into the squad. You mentioned the quality of some of the players we brought in, but let's not forget as well the early work that was done in terms of contract extensions with Rico, Michael Jacobs, Sean Raggett. That enabled us to have the platform to go on to next stage, to identify it, which has meant we got the platform. We look towards the summer of 23-24 next summer. We've got a lot of players in contract next year, so again we're in a better place than we were 2 years ago, when the first window that Danny, Nicky, myself were involved in at the football club, where there was a lot of work to do. We're in a slightly better place this summer. There was less recruitment, still a significant amount to do, and next summer we've got a number of players under contract for next summer, with a number of options on other players whose contracts extend. So we're in a good position in terms of that, but we want to keep the focus. We want to keep improving, and that's a shared ethic that everybody has, and we're very fortunate in that respect to have people who really care about this football club.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a breath of fresh air for the fans to hear. I think a lot of people would have known it already looking in, that Danny cares. I mean, I don't know if people have known, but when I've been on occasion outside the ground after the game, people have been waiting to meet him, and they've been told he's watching the whole game back, he'll be out after. Yeah. And for a manager to sit there for 90 minutes of his own time after a game, where he could easily go home and have dinner, or could go home and have a lay down, he goes in, works the extra mile, puts it in, and as you said, he does care about this football club and about the city, and he incorporates it as much as he can. You really can see that. Now, we've talked about Danny Cowley. We're going to go back to your personal career. I'm going to quickly ask you what your proudest moment is overall. I'm
a person who's it doesn't sort of look back and say, oh, that was great, that was proud. You're just privileged to be on the journey. I mean, I got into football back in 1997, December 97, when I went to Norwich. And I spent 11 years there, which I thoroughly enjoyed, working with some great owners, Delia Smith and her husband, Michael Wynne-Jones. Great team of people. Some are still there, 25 years on. And, we look at the football club there, and we had 6,000 season ticket holders, 14,000 crowds, and within 3 to 4 years we put a range of initiatives in which took the club to 20,000 season ticket holders and sell-out crowds, which they still get. So I think it's not about pride, it's about having a clear plan, and hoping that I then went to MK Dons in 2008. I now spent 12 years there, 12 and a half years with Pete Winkleman, helping, working again with a great team of people to establish, what was a new football club in a brand new stadium. In a great stadium, and so there's been some great moments along the way. I don't want to get down and saying they're proud. Bringing Brazil to Stadium MK to play Cameroon was fantastic. Must have been amazing, the promotions that you're involved with, at Norwich, promotion to the Premier League in 2004, promotion to Championship with MK Dons wasn't up there. They're all special moments in football, but there's other things that you do as well, and you look back at some of the people in football now that I've worked with who've gone on to great things as well, and you look back and you take pleasure in that, and I think it's more about yes, you look back, but also you're constantly looking forward. What more can you achieve? What more could you do? And that's the task in hand here.
Definitely, and that's again, it's going to put a smile on people's faces that a lot of people would, rightly so maybe, look back and enjoy it, whereas equally you have to do it in equal measure. You do still have to look and be like, well, if I work hard, this summer could be another personal moment. Yeah. Because this summer could then be, we're in the Championship, and that's another thing to enjoy. Yeah.
There's five big things here we want to do, and we talk. Everybody wants to see success on the pitch, but you don't achieve it unless you've got other things in place first. So, we're looking at every department. What can they, as I said to you before, what can they do to create the environment and create the conditions for success? But the other areas are what everybody's sort of focused on as well. What can they do? What can their individual departments do to enhance and provide brilliant service for all our supporters, for our clients, for people, people who we deal with and engage with, our partners and our agents, who we work with. So there's absolutely fantastic service there. How can we, really work hard with the community, the local community? This football club's iconic in Portsmouth, as indeed, the Navy are, the university is. We're all sort of need to be connected and joined up, and then before we can inspire, we can lead, we can motivate. So what's your role within the football club as well? How do we do that? The other thing is, we're determined to become a sustainable football club. We don't want to get into trouble like so many other clubs can sometimes do, where perhaps the pursuit of glory has led to the club having long-term problems. So we can see that with one or two clubs at the moment that have had to pay the consequences of that, and have suffered and had to rebuild again. So those are things to do. And I think finally, for my team here, it's about making sure that we're creating the conditions for them to succeed as well, so that they have really clear focus on what's expected of them, their roles and responsibilities. So that's another area that we want to make sure that if we do all those things together, then we've got more chance of being successful.
Yeah, and you can probably hear in the background they're testing for the massive game tomorrow in League One.
That was a great amusement to my Churchillian speech there, wasn't it, Blake?
It was. No. Well, then the testing was done there. Now we'll move on to tomorrow's game just quickly. Obviously at Burton on Tuesday, the programmes had the Queen's face on. We did the minute silence with the two clubs on Saturday being both dockyard clubs. Is there anything in place to do any more at this present time?
Yes, we'll be holding a minute's silence prior to kick off tomorrow, and we'll then invite everybody to join in with the national anthem after that. We feel it's incredibly important to know that we have an opportunity to show our respects. It's quite poignant for that the game tomorrow is between Portsmouth and Plymouth, because both have strong naval connections, and a lot of people in the ground tomorrow through that naval connection and through the work that they do will probably have met the Queen. So we think it will be quite an emotional and special occasion tomorrow.
Definitely. So we talked about tomorrow's game, obviously, but next season is a very big one for this football club, as you probably already know. The 125th season Portsmouth Football Club has been active. We already know about a few plans being run. Is there anything you can disclose about any further plans or developments on those plans?
Well, there's a working group and a committee that's putting together a really considered range of events. So it's probably best for them to announce what they're doing. So I wouldn't want to steal their thunder, because it's a collaborative effort between the supporters, the historical society, and the club. So obviously the most tangible thing you can see at the moment is desire from the supporters to raise funds for the Jimmy Dickinson statue, which will be situated outside the ground. And obviously, Jimmy is somebody who is inextricably linked with Portsmouth Football Club for his service and his contribution, and there's much love towards him and his family. So that's going to be something I think will be really, really special. And there's a large amount of the funds raised so far, so we're getting to a situation where the supporters have really rallied round to make this happen. But aside from that, we'll be looking at commemorative items. We'll be looking at a range of functions and events as well to go alongside it, and also kit design for next year. I think will be something that will be properly recognised.
Yes,
as well.
That's going to be a big one for fans. A lot of fans.
Watch this space, I think, on that one, Blake.
Well, that's going to be one that's going to get people talking there, Andy. I think you know what you've done with that one. And if we're going to move away from that side, and we're going to move to it's kind of groundworks, but it's a bit external, as opposed to the Plan Network Rail collaboration. Sure. Are there any developments going on there, or is it still as it was?
Oh, very much so. We're in dialogue with Network Rail. We've got the support of Stephen Morgan and the council. Everybody looking to how we can improve access on match days into Fratton Park, and that's key to further extension of capacity, because the infrastructure, as everybody knows, into an island is something that there's only so much. Cars that can come in and off without causing greater congestion, and so rail is hugely important, because and if people are going to use Fratton Station, spilling on the current route onto the Goldsmith Avenue puts people at risk, and that has to be something that needs to be addressed. So there's a number of options that are being explored, a number of funding opportunities that continue to be explored as well. So I'm really, really grateful that we got together. Again, it was a project that was started off by my predecessors, and one which is really, really important to continue and carry on with. So I'm grateful that this is something which is it's got MPs, it's got local politicians involved with as well, the council executives, for us all to look together, and also the Pompey Centre, because obviously anything we do would impact on their land too as well. And again, we're very fortunate. The Pompey Centre was taken over 12 months ago by a new company who run retail parks across the country, and they're very, very committed to local community projects. So we're all trying to work together to try and build a solution. It's going to be a slow progress. There's not going to things going to happen overnight, but we're working as hard as we possibly can again to make sure that dialogue continues, so we can achieve some sort of results going forward.
And I think that is quite a big thing as well, because as you said, Goldsmith Avenue, as much as it is the historic route, the pavement is 2 people wide, and you get them spilling over onto the road in the cycle lane, which is none of the club's fault. But again, it is just one of those things that things that could be tweaked.
I mean, I've walked that route on a match day because you need to understand and learn things yourself. And if you're walking down that route and you've got you've got a young parent coming with a young child in a pushchair or a brolly, you're pushing in the opposite direction. It's not great.
Yeah. Especially if people in wheelchairs as well. It's impossible to come against the traffic. Well, what was I going to do then? You mentioned in there about the development overall and hoping to increase capacity. Do you know if there's a current aim for the target capacity of Fratton Park?
I think the most obvious thing we can do at Fratton Park, I mean, the owners have made a decision that they wanted to keep the football club on the island, and that was something that they understand the history, the heritage of this football stadium, and they wanted to say, right, okay, well, to stay here is going to take some considerable investment to do that. They've shown the cards and invested £11.5 million, and a little bit more on top of that prior to that to get things like the cladding of the north and south stands to a position where they were no longer a fire risk, and then gone straight into the project after that. So in terms of capacity, the next obvious thing that we know we can develop is the north stand and increase capacity there. There are various models into the way that can potentially work. One of the things we were mindful of is when we were doing the improvements to the north lower, is that any future extension to the north stand will maintain that lower section, and then we can build back and over in the same way. Probably the best example is the way that Liverpool have done their stand, and Fulham to some extent as well, where obviously they're restricted by the river. The back of the stand they developed. They've been very creative in the way that's worked. To do that, we've been busy sort of looking at opportunities behind the north stand and what else we can do to make that work. So we understand, to develop the north stand and increase the number of increased capacity, you're looking at probably a 40 to 50 million pound project. It's a huge investment, and the way we do that is through enabling development on the land behind it. So it's something that I've been involved with at both Norwich City in terms of how we developed a new stand there at Norwich back in 2004, through residential development on the site, through the introduction of a hotel, all things that worked well for us. MK Dons, it was obviously all about the retail leisure opportunities there. A lot of football stadia in recent years have been built on enabling development, particularly through use of retail. Retail is not probably an option going forward because the world has changed in that respect, but we can work together on things like residential development. We can work together on some mixed commercial use, which might include hotels, for example, and those are all things that are outlined in the Portsmouth local plan. So there are conditions applied to that, but you can see there's a willingness from everybody to try and support and make these things happen when the time is right. Now, to do that, we have to make sure that we can sustain and fulfil that capacity. So one thing that's been really encouraging over this summer has been, we've seen the growth back in season tickets and having dropped back in recent years. We finished at just over 13,000 when the season started. we put a 19-game season ticket on sale as soon as we've got everybody sorted with their seats in the North Stand and South Stand. And those 19-game season tickets have been a phenomenal take-up. Another sort of 650, 700 tickets have been taken up. So we get to a stage probably where you wouldn't really want to go beyond 14,000 season tickets. So you've always got match day tickets on sale to buy. And then, if we get beyond 14,000, there's demand, and we create some sort of waiting list, then that's really important, because then you can demonstrate there is a demand for tickets long term, and the capacity can be extended. So we've got to look at this strategically in a way that gives everybody the confidence to make what will be a really significant investment in terms of those further developments to take the capacity up. Where could it go to? I'm hopeful next year that once the Milton end is, we'll actually be beyond 20,000. We could be closer even, exceed 21,000 seats, and then really, you're looking to try and develop something between, north of 25,000 going forward. I think an ideal size would be, around about 30,000. That's the sort of capacities that some stadiums have done, and then you've got confidence that you're selling out. But who knows? That we're always looking. Is there another seat we could get in here? Is there another area that we could develop?
Cram it in the corner.
What does it mean? How much does it go? People talked about corners. Corners are notoriously expensive to actually create. It's much easier because of the shape and the size, and the seats. Would go. You get more towards the top because you curve in. You have to make sure that you maintain access points into the stadium for heavy, lorries coming in. We're going to have
things like that.
We're going to have cranes come in next summer. For example, to build a TV gantry. So that won't affect any stadium capacity plans next year, but in the long term, those things still need to happen. You still need to have lorries to come in to do pitch renovations and things. So you need that sort of access point to come in. So continue to explore every opportunity. Can we get another seat in there? Could we get one in there? And that's what we keep doing. I
think I'm glad to hear that personally. A lot of people probably will be. But again, you mentioned with Liverpool and trying to do a development like that would cost 50-60 million. I think a lot of fans need to realise that we're not a Prem club anymore. We're not getting I think what is it for just staying up? I think you get £80 million put straight in. We don't have that. With the League One, it isn't great to see, but the money doesn't filter down as much. There's not as much TV money from Sky. So I think you've got to generate that money from somewhere. And again, the hotel idea, I think that's the perfect thing to do. If you build a stand up, even like Blackpool's stand, they built that new stand. They've got a hotel in there because it's something.
Yeah, and I think MK Dons is a good story where the football club, typically loses around £3 million a year on its football operations. People say, "Wow, how do you sustain it?" Well, it's quite simple. You've got a business model that generates £3 million a year from the hotel, conferencing, and exhibition operations, and hugely successful. 304 bedrooms sold out. Now, we won't have a 304 bedroom hotel because at MK Dons, at Stadium MK, it goes around the whole stadium. This would probably be something that might be slightly standalone, and then you can maximise the use of all the space you create in a new stand for conferencing, exhibition facilities. We'd explore what things currently in the South Stand might be relocated into there. That could create more opportunities in the South Stand for that area as well. So dressing rooms, for example, offices that currently over here, new hospitality facilities. So it's an incredibly exciting project to start to consider. But we've got to make sure, first of all, that that capacity and demand is there. I'm pretty convinced it is, but I've got to demonstrate that, and I've got to deliver against it. So those are some of the more longer term strategic priorities I'm tasked to work on and demonstrate what the best decision is for the football club to use its resources.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one struggle that many people will know on the island is that at one point a few years ago we're the most densely populated city in Europe. Yeah. And in building a football stadium without space, it's quite. You can't just build on top of yourself and go up. It's not like a block of flats. You can't just go up. Yeah. So looking for that room again is a massive thing. Now I've just got to make sure that I don't re-ask questions, but the last one on this page here has been a big question over the summer. There was a lot of, I think, unfair criticism of it because it got made public. But are the clubs still looking to hire a sporting director?
Yes, we are. It's important that we see that as important to the long-term development of the football club. to give us again stability in some of the things we're doing in terms of recruitment, in terms of football operations as well, not just in talent ID, but also in our other areas of analysis, sports science, medicine. All those areas are really cohesively joined up, regardless of what might happen on or off the pitch. And I'm a big believer in it. I've reviewed what's happening at other clubs. I think it's the right way to go, and we'll be doing this far more quietly than we went about the business in March, April, because there was too much noise going on, which actually put a lot of people off. And I think if I can give them, I've got to work in an area of confidentiality out of respect to those people, and I think that's something that we'll continue to work very hard at to identify the right individual to come into Portsmouth Football Club.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what I think a lot of fans will want to hear. Last summer, I think it was unfair on those people that you were trying to get in, because out of nowhere they were like in private negotiations, which is what happens in football. And out of nowhere, then you look on Twitter and it's this man's going there, and he's probably reading that and going, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah, and there's some names that have been bandied about that that we'd offer jobs and they turned us down. And we hadn't even spoken to some of those people, and some of the people we had spoken to, we'd not made job offers, and people putting two and two together to make five. But that's the nature of the game. I think you get that speculation with players from time to time, where people put things out and they're wide of the mark. Sometimes they're spot on, and that's fine with players. I get that, but I think when it comes down to people's livelihoods as employees of particularly employees of other football clubs, then it puts them into very precarious and difficult positions, and we can't allow that to happen.
Yeah, because obviously it's not just about, like with players, it can be loan deals, it can be transfers that take ages to work out, but with employees, at the end of the day, they're still just working their normal day-to-day job, and it's not like where you can just travel in to train. It's you have to be there all the time, and their families are finding out, not from them, but from.
And that individual has to go back and say, "Oh, see, you've been linked with a Portsmouth Football Club. What's this all about?" And suddenly, that trust that they have with their own football club is gone, and that's not fair. And so we will continue to do this as best we possibly can under the radar, so that we get the right person in for Portsmouth Football Club to do this role long term. And if it takes a bit more time, so be it. We will get there.
I've got to agree, you do have to make sure it's the right man, especially for Danny Cowley and for you yourself. You can't just employ someone that may not work because it fits the plan now.
It's bigger than Danny Cowley, it's bigger than Andy Cullen. It's about Portsmouth Football Club and getting the right person for this football club going forward. So whatever happens to Danny, whatever happens to me, we've got somebody who's getting this football club from the football operational side into great shape and can deliver long-term success, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on now, because in previous years we've had squads rely on loan players. Now, before you joined the club, we had a certain man known as Ben Thompson, who you've probably heard a load about. He joined us on loan for the season. We were top of the league at Christmas. Millwall recalled him, and coincidentally our form dipped because we failed to kind of replace him. Are there plans in place, or are there deals in place that could see the likes of Dane Scarlett, Owen Dale, Joe Pigott leave in January, and are the plans there to make sure that we're still fine?
Yeah, every deal's different, and I'm not going to comment on individual players, but I think in an ideal world, when you do a loan deal, you want to have the opportunity that there's no recall in January, and we've been able to achieve that in some of our loan deals this season, but not all. And you have to respect that, particularly for players coming in from clubs above you, they want that flexibility, because they may be doing it for the players' development, and they may see that if the player is doing well, they might want to test him at a higher level. You hope that won't be a case, because the club will take a long-term view that they get through the full season, and that's about having regular dialogue with the parent club, so they're comfortable, they can see everything you're doing is being done in the right directions. But it's impossible to give that cast iron guarantee, because it's something which is not within our control. And when you're doing the loan, we will certainly, as a football club, always seek to make sure that there is no recall. The owners are really big on that. The owners will challenge every loan deal. Have you got that in? Can you do it? And in some cases we have to say, we can say yes. In other places we can say it's just not possible. But I think we're really pleased with all 5 loans that we've used this year, and I'm confident that the parent clubs will also be really pleased with what's happening. So it's good, and providing we keep that, we're in a good position. But fingers crossed that we can keep everybody here beyond January on that loan roster. If we don't, then we you never know what's around the corner. I mean, we had a player at MK Dons, Benicophobe, who came on loan from Arsenal. He did extraordinarily well in the first half of the season. I think both he and Will Greig formed a partnership up front, and I think that between them they'd scored about 35 goals by Christmas. And we're in a situation where with Benick, we're in a strong position going into January, or at least we thought we were. Unfortunately, Benick, because of what he'd done, got an offer to go to Wolves for several £1 million to Arsenal, and Benick had a life-changing opportunity in terms of what it meant for him in terms of salary and to go out and play at a higher level. And that was something that was difficult to deal with at the time. We got through it. We still got promoted that season. Will continued to score goals, and we were able to bring in another loan into the building that did well for us. So you have to prepare for every eventuality and every scenario. But I'm hoping in this case that we would get to the end of January without recalls being exercised. What we can do, where we do have a recall, is we can limit the date of that recall, so it doesn't sort of come into effect on the 31st of January, giving you nowhere to go. So where those are in place, we're very, very strong that we make sure that those need to be exercised by the middle of the month. So it always give us the opportunity to go out and replace.
Yeah, so as you said there, you definitely have the plan in place too. Yeah. And I think fans would be delighted to hear, well, not delighted to hear that you lost him, but when you're at MK Dons, you had the experience of losing a key player, you managed to replace and still hit the aims of that season. Yeah. Which is going to be big, especially for this season, because previous years, I'm not saying we failed, because we still got the playoffs that season, but I think we failed to develop on what we had in January, whereas most teams built, we kind of faltered slightly, to speak. Yeah, and
that's always a tricky thing. That is, the loans can be great because you can bring quality in, and you can bring quality in at good value, but there's always sometimes there can be a little bit of a downside to it, and you can get to the end of the season and a player that's done really, really well for you goes back to his parent club. That happened with Will Greig, for example. And we were promoted. We would love to have took Will with us in the Championship, but there was a club at the time that just kept bidding for a permanent transfer, and as much as we tried to compete, it wasn't something in the end. We they went beyond the valuation we had on the player. Yeah. But those are things. But I'm a great believer in the loan system. Some people say but it complements what you got. You can bring that talent, you can bring that experience in at this level. And let's face it, we've got clubs in the Premiership using loan deals as well to great benefit. So it's something that I think remains a feature of what we do. I think the loans this season have really, really complemented and added to us well.
Yeah, I think as well. I think perfectly in the summer it's been balanced. It hasn't been, well, we're going to get this loan player and he's going to be our key man. It's like you look in goal. Griffiths is our starting goalkeeper. He's coming on loan. Yeah. We had Bazunu last year. Obviously, we probably knew last season he wasn't going to stay. He was miles beyond us. Unfortunately, he has moved on to a certain club we shall not name. But you're looking at players like Dane Scarlett. He's in there. You have Bishop with him. You're not relying on Scarlett to do the whole job. Yeah. You've got Dale on the right wing. You've also got Rico Hackett, or you've got Curtis can operate out there. So you're not relying on these players to play every week, and then you lose them and go, yeah. Anyway, we shall move on. As I've said already, it has been a great transfer window in my opinion, and we can just thank you for that. And I believe many fans would agree on that. But I know it probably never does. Did it go down straightforward, and did you get most of the players you wanted in?
Nothing straightforward. You don't always get what you set out to do, but you've got to be agile and alert because other opportunities present themselves as well. The type of player you want. You do a lot of work. We did a lot of work from January onwards in terms of what we were going to do in the summer. The praise isn't about me. It's about the people who work so diligently and hard. It starts with the likes of Phil Boardman and his scouts out in the field who, are identifying players that fit the mould. It comes down to then the alignment with the football club. Are they right for this football club in terms of it? So hours and hours of, watching video footage, going out and watching then, the identified targets in the field so that you can see them with your own two eyes, and lots of people taking second opinions. You'll look at other things as well. You'll take character references on the player. You might look at their social media accounts, as well.
Yeah.
All these things are really, really important. And then, you've identified it. You then find that with a lot of the players, it's not just you that's interested. There's probably 3 or 4 suitors if they're out of contract, or if they're somebody like, someone in contract that you've got to pay a fee for. You've got to go out and, again, understand from the player, and the player needs to understand from you what your long-term ambitions, what the plan is for the football club, so that you then need to go and make compelling presentations, not just them, but maybe sometimes their families, their parents, their agents, and say this is the place for you to come to. And when you get to all of that and you get to a good place, you then got the difficult stuff where probably I saw then come in and Tony Brown in terms of the financials and the negotiations to try and get the best deals that we can do, and again persuade the player that this is the place to come. Even though we have players this season that have had opportunities to go maybe higher up to championship clubs. And they've chosen, some have been quite well documented, but
yes.
Have still chosen that they wanted to come to Portsmouth Football Club, which is great. And that happens because of the work that's gone in over a long period of time. Now, in terms of the transfer window, it's very kind of you to say, and fans to believe it's been a good window. I think with all these things, time will tell at the end of the season. But no one can fault the effort and the hard work from so many people that's gone in to bring 12 new players into the building, and not those 12 new players, but also persuade other players who are at the end of their contracts to re-sign. So fair play to that. And sometimes in life you don't always get what you want, but if you work hard, you're more likely to succeed.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a couple have been documented, and I'd just like to, I know you said don't mention names, but you've got Tom Lowry and Marlon Pack as our midfield duo who both had championship offers, and I think the fans need to realise that I think Tom Lowry had an offer from, I don't know personally because I don't know Tom and I don't know the transfer window, but it's been widely reported that one of the clubs was West Bromwich Albion, who realistically would have offered him a potential to be in the Premier League in a few years because that's what their aim is. You've also got Marlon Pack, who's been at Cardiff, Bristol City in the past, I think wanted him back. I don't know, of course. But for us, we've obviously worked really hard to make sure these players know exactly where they're going, exactly what they're getting, and they've been convinced by not just you, but everyone that works.
Yeah, I think the players will look at it. What does it mean for me? What is it? And it's not just about if everyone thinks that players are driven by finances. There are a few players like that, but most players are there. What does it mean for me in my career? It's a short career, and I want to make sure that I'm going to the club that's going to be right for me and my future plans as well. So we have to recognise that. But don't underestimate as well the pull of Portsmouth as a place. And we can tell people say, well, it's you're a little bit distant. It means relocation, and it's it's a big decision sometimes for people to move. But I think one of the big pulls is people understand that coming to Fratton Park, what a great theatre to play football in, and that is also a huge pull from the supporters and what they mean, and that, never underestimate that part of the a decision that goes into a player's thinking.
Definitely. Now we've just got 2 questions left from me for today, so I'm going to end it on one that I was going to ask earlier, but that will be next. First of all, will we see more fan engagement with the squad as there has been in previous years? Because I remember under Jacket we had things like open training sessions. Is that a potential for this season or the coming years?
Well, the engagement will certainly increase this year, because for the last 2.5 years we've been not able to do anything because of COVID. We've been under strict protocols where players cannot go out and do public appearances, and that's frustrating both from a community aspect and also from a commercial partner aspect, where player appearances and engagement is built into those contracts. So we will see a number of more things happening this year, greater engagement. We've already had 2 players go out to supporter forums and meet the fans at different supporter clubs and groups. It was something that Danny and I Did a number of those last year, and we were conscious that we needed to do as many as possible because of the limitations placed on players under the protocols. But that's now opening up. So I think there will be more activities and things that we can work. Open training sessions are great, but we have to be very careful with maintaining the pitch at the moment in terms of the current pitches. Look, it looks really good on the surface, but we've got to protect the substructure and what's happening underneath.
Quite hard, hasn't it, over previous years?
So as it comes to that next stage, and that's a significant investment that we need to think about going forward. But definitely, the ability to do more and more of that is great news, because the connection between the supporters, players, coaches and managers is so crucial at any football club, and creates that really good bond, and delivers the support. So I'm very, very mindful of that and different things that we can do.
Yeah, and I think at the minute, the fans adore Danny. They adore yourself quite possibly, but Danny Cowley's getting the support from everyone at the minute, isn't he? I think the whole city is behind him to deliver. The way he speaks is just, he's so open with the fans, he engages. And I think it's the perfect appointment we got in that man, perfectly working the fans.
Yeah, you have to come in. You have to understand what a football club's all about, and there is no doubt that Danny and a number of players really get it, and so are very, very keen that we can work at that. How do you expand it, and how do you really keep building the connection? And when times are tough, and they will be during the season, let's make no mistake about it. We know we've had a good start, but there's going to be moments in the season which will be difficult. They are at any football club. No one has a perfect record, and we've seen already this season a couple of occasions when we have fallen behind at home. How the supporters have stayed with the team. Never underestimate that. That is so important in terms of coming out confident for a second half and playing with confidence and not playing with fear from the crowd. It's huge. And in all those occasions we've come back to win football matches. So
exactly.
The crowd has really played its part in that, when it would have been easy to get frustrated or disappointed.
It's or easy to necessarily.
Yeah,
or easy for some players like to hide.
Yeah.
You go 1-0 down, you're like, oh no, I'm just going to sit here and just. Like in games like tomorrow, the fans are probably massive. I wouldn't know, but for Danny, for you, for the players, the fans being on their side in a game like that is probably going to be massive.
Yeah.
Well, the last question from me is going to be, how confident are you, given the start of the season, for the rest of this campaign?
I think we've got our own targets as to what we want to achieve. We've had a good start. I feel we've got a good squad of players. We've got a good group of players mentally. We've got a good group of players culturally as well, in terms of all the alignment of things we want to do. We've got a backroom team that are really focused, work really hard, and within the rest of the football club, from ground staff through to maintenance, commercial, finance, I've got operations, safety, security. We've got everybody sort of on the same page, and I think that does give you a degree of confidence to succeed. It's going to be, as we said before at the start of the interview, it's going to be a very competitive division this year. There's some big teams, some good squads in there, but you just want you've got to provide the platform to build. Well, we've given ourselves an early good start to the season, and we just want to continue to build on that. Everybody pulling in the same direction, but we've got that internally. We've got that with supporters. We've got that around the city. And I speak to different people from different institutions regularly, and you can see there is a buzz about the place, and that does give you the sense that you can focus on everything and focus on the right things in the game to achieve success. So we keep building, we keep looking to improve, and get this football club where it should be and where it needs to be, and that has to be the goal, both in the short term but long term as well. When we get there, how do we sustain it? So really important stuff going forward.
Yeah, and that's definitely going to be great for the fans to hear. Now that's it really from me. So thank you, Andy. Is there anything you want to say to the Portsmouth fans ahead of the rest of the season and after this interview?
I just want to say a big thank you for supporting us. It's very difficult economic times at the moment, so to go into a season now where we stand at 13,750, to have sellout crowds, To have people with smiles on their faces is incredibly rewarding. We will continue to work as hard as we possibly can to deliver, success for the football club, deliver a great matchday experience when people come down. We've got a matchday experience working group now working with us. People will have seen that we're working hard to improve areas in the concessions and the bar areas, the fan zone outside. We'll see some more improvements at the game against Plymouth, which we'll build on. So very thank you, because it's not easy at the moment for everybody. It's not easy to bring families down, certain sacrifices that are having to be made. Thank you for that. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement and the goodwill, and we'll do our best for you.
And thank you very much, Andy, overall, not just for coming on here, but for everything you do for the football club. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Delighted. Thanks, Blake.